I've watched 278 brand new shows in 2021. I've reviewed them all for you over the year, but now we're going to talk about the best and the worst of TV 2021. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my best and worst TV of 2021 video. Like I said, I've seen now 278 different shows, and that's just all the new shows. Forget all the ones, I've been watching over the years. But in terms of the brand new shows, I review for you every single week. We've done nearly 300 this year. It's hard to believe, but we've calculated here the best and the worst. We're going to do the top 25 and the bottom 10 and some other categories of some fun in there too. But yeah, it's been kind of a crazy year because we've all, 2020 was so odd because the fall TV season almost didn't have any shows because of COVID. So we had sort of an onslaught in the mid-season here in early 2021, and then the fall of 2021 brought us a whole slew of new shows. And then, of course, streamers just never stop. They're always going with new things. So I think every major streamer is represented here in one way or the other. I think except for Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus has some decent stuff. I can't deny that, but they are the only major streamer that is not mentioned in any of my best or worst. I'm trying to think of what the best new show I watched on Paramount Plus this year was. Probably Star Trek Lower Decks. Not Lower Decks, that's the cartoon one. The teenage Star Trek one. I get them all mixed up. I forget what it's even called. But that's probably the best new thing I've seen on Paramount Plus this year, although I'm always watching like The Good Fight on Paramount Plus and some of the other stuff, and I catch up on CBS shows sometimes on there as well. But yeah, they're the only one. Everybody else, Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon, they've all got shows in my top 25. And a few of them are in the bottom 10 as well. And then there's a few network shows as well. So let's just dive right in. I do want to thank you, the loyal TV news and reviews watcher, for sticking with me all year and watching all of these reviews. I know there's several of you out there that watch every single week, so that's awesome. So, all right, first, before we get to the straight top 25, we're going to talk about a couple of little sort of side top fives. Last year we did a tops of COVID-related shows, but this time we're going to do the top 5 unscripted shows. We did that last year. And then a new one, the top 5 kids shows. These are a lot of fun for the whole family, really, but I would say targeted more at like the under 10 set. So let's start with the unscripted. Number 5 for me, I love a good game show, and this was one that sort of blew me away because I'm not really interested in cooking shows, but it was so much fun to watch, and that is Crime Scene Kitchen on Fox. I believe it is returning this summer for season 2, but this was a lot of fun. Joel McHale hosts, and people go into this crime scene kitchen and try to uncover clues to what dessert was made, and then we get to watch them make it and see who comes the closest. It was a lot of fun, so I enjoyed that. Number 4, The Problem with Jon Stewart. No surprise there. This is on Apple Plus, and I was a huge Daily Show fan, and he's been off the air obviously for a long time because Trevor Noah took over, and I was glad to see him back. It is sort of like a longer form Daily Show, but less about the comedic take on the specific news of the day as it is of issues of the day. And he has roundtable discussions, and it's funny, but it's also very, very moving and sort of angering in a lot of ways too with what they're talking about. Number 3, another game show. ABC has been knocking it out with the game show. I almost put the Return to the Chase on here as well, but no, The Hustler is my number 3. A fun guessing game. Love trying to figure out who the hustler is. And we got lucky because we had the first season in early 2021, and then they did a season in the fall, too, because that first season was taped before COVID, so they just had that sitting in the can for like a year. So we actually got 2 seasons of The Hustler this year, which was very cool. Great show. Number 2, Pretend It's a City on Netflix. This is Annie Leibovitz, basically being interviewed by Martin Scorsese, and her take on New York City. And if you're not a fan of her humor, this is a pass, I think, but I am, and I think she's very funny, and I really enjoyed watching this miniseries. And then number one, it is not the Beatles Get Back. That would probably have been number 6 or 7 on the list. I thought it was a bit too long, but it does involve a Beatle. It is over on Hulu, McCartney 321. It's him and producer Rick Rubin just going through, a ton of the Beatles and Wings and McCartney solo hit songs and sort of breaking them down by, how they were recorded and what he was thinking at the time and da-da-da-da-da. Get Back is great, but it is a very specific time period in the Beatles' lives, so we, a ton of repeats on the songs and whatever, because it was all the making of one album. But this is an overview of everything, and McCartney, is still so sharp and so great to watch. So that was my number one unscripted of the year. Over on the kids show front, we've got number 5, Mighty Ducks Game Changers on Disney+. This is certainly for the whole family, and obviously 90s kids that remember the original movies are going to love this just as much as kids, but it's not my top 25 of the year. It really just missed the cut. It would have been in the top 30, I guess, but so I wanted to show it some love somewhere on here, so we'll put that at number 5 for the kids. Dogs in Space on Netflix. I just watched this one maybe 2 weeks ago. Very, very funny. Haley Joel Osment is the lead. Garbage is his name, which I think is hilarious. But cute show. Definitely shades of Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. Not Adult Swim necessarily, but definitely like Cartoon Network type of stuff, type of humor, and type of animation as well. So I like that. Number 3 on Disney Channel. And you can watch this, I guess, on Disney Plus as well. Secrets of Sulphur Springs. This was a fun little whodunit. And sort of getting to know these young little characters that end up being, kind of Nancy Drew-ish or Encyclopedia Brown or whatever you want to say, about some interesting things going on in the town. Number 2 on Apple Plus, this is just a classic, The Snoopy Show. You can't really go wrong. Snoopy's never even been one of my favorite characters, but I love the Peanuts universe, and so that was sort of a no-brainer for me. They do 3 shorts in a half-hour episode, and it's just, a lot of fun, and certainly for the kids. And number 1 on Netflix, Waffles and Mochi. This is sort of a fake cooking show, really, but it's with puppets, and they don't really know how to do much of anything in the kitchen, but they learn from some celebrity guests and from each other, and it's just very cute. I'm a sucker for puppets, so, that one hit for me. There is one more in my top 25 that I would say is for kids as well. But since it's in the top 25, I did not put it in there. I'll mention that as we go along. So let's get to the top 25 here. We're gonna do the bottom 10 about halfway through, I guess, before we get to the top 10 maybe. But all of these got either A's or A pluses for me, and not necessarily in all of these orders. I have shuffled some things around based on how I felt about them at the end of the year. Some of them I kept up with and watched the whole series, and so that made it either higher or lower. But all of the A's and A pluses here are present except for 3. And these did not make the cut, but they're all very good. They all would have been like top 30. Generation on HBO Max, which has since been canceled, but that was really good. iCarly, the iCarly reboot on Paramount Plus. Oh, there's your Paramount Plus. Well, it did make the cut, though. It did not make the top 25, but okay, so that may be the best show I saw this year on Paramount Plus. And then Maya and the 3 on Netflix. That's a cartoon as well, but I would say a little older leaning. Maybe for the tween set. It is a very action-heavy show, but a lot of fun, beautiful art there. So, all right, so those 3 did not quite make the cut, but they were the other A-minuses of the year. So let's get into the best. Number 25, Chucky. This is on Sci-Fi and USA. They air on both, and it has been renewed for season 2. This was a lot of fun. I'm not totally versed in the Child's Play universe. I've seen a couple of the movies, but this was a lot of fun and a good reboot. In fact, it's part of the reason I didn't do a top 3 reboots of the year, because I did that at least the last year. I might have done it in 2019 as well, because a bunch of the not a bunch, but some of the reboots end up in my top 25. Chucky's not the last one. So you could say the top 3 would be like iCarly, Chucky, and then the one that's coming up. But Number 24, Dr. Death on Peacock. This was a cool miniseries, very interesting, great character work too for Alec Baldwin and Joshua Jackson. Very interesting, based on a true story. And if you love true crime kind of stuff, definitely check out Dr. Death. And it's just a mini series, so I think it's 6 episodes or something, or 8 episodes, and you're done. Number 23, Loki on Disney Plus. This was one of my favorites of the Marvel Universe. I've heard actually Hawkeye gets really, really good. I've only seen the first 2 episodes of that I reviewed for you, which I did like. But for me, Loki sort of gets the stamp here of the top 25. Great to see Owen Wilson doing something that I think is really, really fun. I think he's an okay actor. I prefer his brother Luke, but this really, I think, brought him into this universe in a fun way. And I've always loved the character of Loki, so no surprise there. That lands at number 23. Number 22, Kevin Can F Himself on AMC. Now, this did get renewed for a second season, but that will be the final season. So we're going to premiere that, I guess, in January or February of this year. So coming up. Then one and done. But I think this is certainly one of the most original shows of the year. It's half sitcom and half what happens when the cameras go off, and this poor woman living in the sitcom with her dumb husband, and how does she go about the rest of her life, where she's kind of depressed. And it's very interesting and great. Talk about character work, great character work from Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek. So there you go. That lands at number 22. And a lot of these, by the way, I have not finished the full seasons of. I watch all the things to review for you, which is usually at least the first 2 episodes. And as we get to some of the top 10 and stuff, they are things I've seen all of, and I've sort of binged or watched one a week or whatever during the season. But like Kevin Can F Himself, I only watched the first 2 episodes of that. But it's kind of how I have to grade these things, because at some point I would love to finish them. Maybe I will, time permitting. But as we move on here, number 21, Starstruck on HBO Max. This is one of many imports on HBO Max. They got this from, I want to say England maybe, but I'm not positive if that's true. But, this struggling, I think she's a stand-up comedian, sleeps with this famous actor and, becomes sort of enamored with him, but he feels the same about her, so they start this sort of whirlwind romance, but it's funny. And this is one I did actually finish, because I think it's only like 6 episodes. Number 20, Ghosts on CBS. This is one of 2 broadcast shows on the list this year. Last year, I think we only had 1, but, again, COVID sort of shuffled a lot of the 2020 stuff. Last year was Big Sky, but this year it's Ghost. And when I originally reviewed this was, I think, a B+, but it is one that I have kept up with. I've watched every week, and I've moved it up. It's a very funny show. The ensemble is great, so looking forward to many years, as CBS usually does with their hit sitcom, so we can enjoy that. Number 19, The Premise. That's FX on Hulu. It is a BJ Novak show, and it is an anthology. Anthologies can really go either way, but I watched, I think, 3 of the 6 episodes here, and all of them were like in that A range. So I really enjoyed this show. It's all sort of about, one basic premise per episode, of course, and exploring that. Some of it's technology based, but the acting's really good here. They've gotten some good guest stars to do the performances, so I enjoyed that. Number 18, this is another one on HBO. I think HBO Max actually has more than any other on my list, to be honest. 10-Year-Old Tom is this one. It's very, very funny. Of all the adult animated series, this is the tops of the year for me. We've had a lot of attempts at, really funny adult humor, but it needs to be more than just, the kid says some dirty things and whatever. Like one of the worst of the year. It doesn't make my bottom 10 worst, but it's definitely up there, is HBO Max's The Prince, which is about Prince Prince Archie, one of the kids of the royals. But I thought that was kind of a gross show to take real people and do that. But yeah, 10-Year-Old Tom, very, very funny. And John Malkovich, plays the like the coach or whatever. It's very sort of subversive and bizarre, but I enjoyed it. And this one I did watch. I think there's like 10 episodes, and I watched all of them. All right, number 17, It's a Sin. This is on HBO Max as well. It sort of goes hand in hand with Generation on HBO Max. They premiered like right around the same time, and they're both heavily involved with sexuality and specifically, queer life. Generation in the present, and then It's a Sin. This one is in the past. It takes place in the heyday of the AIDS epidemic, and people's friends dying off, and all of this. Very, very again, I keep saying like character work, and I think that is something that draws me into a show, and for sure this program has it. It's a mini series, so we won't see it anymore, but yeah, this is one to watch. I think there's maybe 5 episodes. It's a short watch, but especially for somebody like myself in the gay community, very, very important to kind of remember that 80s scare that luckily I'm too young to actually remember, but all right. So number 16, here is the one that I would say is also a kids show, but I didn't put it in the top 5 kids shows because I'm putting it here, and that is Barbarian and the Troll on Nickelodeon. I mentioned I'm a sucker for puppets. This is right out of the Henson factory. It's not actually from Henson Productions, but it's the creator is somebody that worked with the Henson studio on a bunch of stuff. So it's got that flavor, it's got that look, and it's got a lot of really sharp humor. And it's kind of an action series, as you might imagine from the title Barbarian and the Troll. But if you like that sort of thing, it's interesting to see puppets doing a lot of sort of action heavy sequences and stuff like that. But they're telling a lot of good jokes here, very, very funny. And all right, another funny show that has a great concept, one of the most original concepts of the year, Schmigadoon is number 15. That's on Apple Plus. Really great stuff here. I didn't get through the whole thing, but I did watch, I think, 4 of the 6. It's on my list. Next week, I'm finishing a bunch of Apple TV Plus stuff. I'm catching up on Ted Lasso Season 2 and Physical with Rose Byrne, which was this year. I graded that pretty highly. And Schmigadoon is one of the ones I'm going to finally finish. But really funny stuff. I love the 2 leads. Cecily Strong from SNL, Keegan-Michael Key from Mad TV, and of course, a million other things. They're great together. They get stuck in a musical. And, Keegan-Michael Key's character hates musicals. Cecily Strong loves them. But in any event, how do they get out? And do they want to get out? It's funny. The songs are great. So yeah, this is definitely one of the most original shows of the year for sure. Number 14, this would be my highest of the reboots of the year, The Wonder Years on ABC. Not really a shock there. I'm a sucker for the original. It's one of my favorites probably of all time. And I think this version is done maybe not quite just as well, but very, very great. It takes the same exact time period and puts it in the South. I think they're in Alabama, on a black family. And you have Don Cheadle as the narrator, who is great. I thought it would be distracting because his voice is so specific and we know him, but it really isn't. Every time I watch the show, he really, I believe he is the adult version of this character and not Don Cheadle, which I think is a task unto itself, but he does it. But yeah, great storylines, a lot like the original, taking some pretty serious subject matter and bringing a few laughs from it, but also a lot of realism. So great show. My favorite of all the network shows in 2020. Number 13, Blind Spotting on Stars. This is from a movie, so I wouldn't consider it necessarily a reboot, I guess. Although it's sort of in the same vein as Chucky. And I guess I said that was kind of a reboot. But Blind Spotting is based on one movie that not a lot of people saw, so I think it's a little different. But this is on Stars, and I loved the movie. A-plus movie for me. Daveed Diggs starred in it, and this is taking a similar sort of tact from the movie. There's one character from the movie, and it's like a side supporting character that they take and sort of create the show around them. And really, really, hard-hitting drama stuff. But, in a little bit of the same vein of the movie is, there's some sort of poetry in the language. They're, sort of not quite rapping, but, there's a lot of sort of flow in a lot of the dialogue. It's very cool. So I love that show. Number 12, Reservation Dogs. This is on FX on Hulu, which they're sort of disintegrating that moniker anyway, and it's just going to be on Hulu, I guess. But yeah, Reservation Dogs, boy, what a great show this was. I was surprised by this because I didn't know anything about it. I actually thought when I first saw the thing come up on my TV, because it's like I have a Apple, not a I have a Roku tube on my TV, but upstairs I have it like the Apple, whatever it's called, that you stick in your TV. And so they put like ads up for different new shows. And I thought it said Reservoir Dogs. I thought it was like a Tarantino thing. And then I watched it, to review for you guys. I was like, well, this is nothing like Tarantino. Like, did I misread this? And I did. And it's really, really great. It's some kids that all are, no-name kids, but they're all really good actors. And about their everyday life, just trying to sort of get by in this town that they're sort of outcasts in. But yeah, really, really good stuff there. Number 11, HBO Max again, a show called Sort of. This one I binged all 6 episodes of in 2 days. I reviewed it for you guys just about a month ago, and this is a show from out of Canada, but it was a co-production with HBO Max, so it was always destined for that platform. And this gal, I don't remember her name now, but they are really non-binary, so I shouldn't even say this gal. But the show is about how they are, how they exist sort of as a non-binary, queer person, but as a babysitter. She's a nanny for these kids, and they are a nanny for these kids, and the parents have sort of mixed feelings, about it. But then a tragedy ensues in the family, and they get right in there. And this is again really good character work. But what I love about it the most is, much like sort of the queerness in Schitt's Creek, it's not a main part of the story. Yes, they are non-binary. Yes, they are also not white. Also, yes, they're queer, and all of this. But a lot of that does not factor in. And I love it when a show can do that authentically, so I love that. All right, so before we get to the top 10, the cream of the crop, the best of the best, we got to talk about the worst, the bottom 10 of the year. So all of these earned either Fs or Ds. There are 3 Ds that were not mentioned. So really, if we did all Fs and Ds, it would be a bottom 13. But I decided, okay, well, let's figure out what really is the worst of the worst. So Behind the Music was a D, so that's honorable mention. I just talk about a reboot that didn't need to exist. They especially the first couple episodes, they just were rehashing old episodes with very scant new footage, so that was stupid. Intergalactic, which was I think on Peacock, kind of a lame sci-fi, and then You Bet Your Life with Jay Leno, another reboot, and just look, I'm not a huge Leno fan, but this, made me almost hate him. I mean, it was so unfunny and forced. So those are the sort of honorable mentions and the worst. They're the other ones that got D's. Number 10, Country Comfort on Netflix. This is a multi-camera laugh track sitcom. Some of those can work. I always say it whenever I do give a bad review for one, because I don't want y'all to think that I don't necessarily think that format is dead. I think it might need some tweaking, but there's some that I watch regularly. The Connor certainly is one of them, but The Neighborhood on CBS I also really like. And but this one just did not hit the mark for me at all. Very, very bad. Number 9 is a kids show, HBO Max. Hey, they've got some of the best and some of the worst. Yabba Dabba Dinosaurs. The Flintstones reboot, I guess, of sorts. It's terrible. The voice work is not there. And it focuses on the worst part of the Flintstones, Bam Bam and Pebbles. So, yeah, bad stuff. And the animation's horrible. It looks like a 5-year-old drew it. Number 8, Firebite on AMC+. I just reviewed this, I think 2 weeks ago or something. Really, really lame. The dialogue stinks. The acting stinks. AMC's so desperately searching for like the new Breaking Bad or Walking Dead or whatever, and they just they just are having problems with it. There's a couple I like. I mean, Kevin can F himself, but that obviously is not in that same vein. But this is about zombies, so it's like, okay, we already kind of did this whole thing. But all right, number 7, another HBO Max, Head of the Class. I loved the original. The new version, horrible. Way too woke and proud of it for its own good. Like, I don't mind, a show that's woke in its own way, but like when they're just shoving it into your face, and when the third line of the first episode is about how the girl's going to make 30% less than the boy, at work, it's like, okay, we got it, and it's just not funny on top of that. Number 6, X-rated on Peacock, X-E-X, is how you spell that, because it's a dating show about people's exes and why they were such duds. Were they bad in the sack? Were they bad, tippers? Why did we break up with you? So let's go down memory lane of your exes. Andy Cohen hosts it, which should tell you everything, but yeah, very bad. Number 5, Dad, Stop Embarrassing Me on Netflix. Luckily, this was just a one-seasoner because this was terrible. Jamie Foxx was the lead here, and I think this was laugh track as well. I can't honestly remember because I watched it early in the year, but it was terrible. I didn't laugh once at the 2 episodes I saw. And I like Jamie Foxx, but this was not the show. Number 4, When Nature Calls with Helen Mirren on ABC. This was their version of like a Mystery Science Theater, but for a National Geographic show. And it just missed every mark. Except for, sadly, the visuals were great. The actual, shooting that they did of these animals, you should just put the show on mute and watch the beauty of the world. But if you have it with the audio, you're just going to want to blow your brains out. It's terrible. Number 3, Everyone is Doing Great on Hulu. This was, I'm not familiar with One Tree Hill. I know it exists, but I never watched it. But this was 2 guys from One Tree Hill playing sort of versions of themselves. They played 2 sort of washed up actors who had success in one long running, in this case, vampire TV show a long time ago. And like trying to get their careers back. It's really bad. So yeah, hated that. Number 2, Sex Life on Netflix. This is for people who really, they're too snooty to watch porn, I guess. So they have to watch this. It's like the 50 Shades crowd. Like 50 Shades, I did like the first movie, but is, basically like, it's the hardest core porn you can get without actually being a porn. And so people feel better about it because, it's on Netflix, it must be okay to watch. But there's no, no character development. There's no good dialogue. The acting stinks. And even the sex scenes, I didn't think the sex scenes were sexy. So that's bad. But the worst offender of the year, number 1, horrible show of the year, Double Cross with Blake Griffin. This is on True TV, and it is supposed to be this I want to say kind of hidden camera show. Basically, people write in and say, my friend did this to me. I want to get him back. Let's get him back. But it is so scripted, it's not even funny. It's one of the most scripted shows I can think of. Like, it's so horrible. And Blake Griffin's an okay host, like whatever. I only know him really from the Comedy Central roast, but he's a sports star. I think he plays football. But like, just what was the point of this show if you're going to just have it be completely scripted? There is no point. So, all right, with that, we're going to get to the top 10. These are now the best of the year. And again, I watched a lot of these all the way through. Looking at the 10, I would say I watched all but maybe 1 or 2 of these all the way through. So these are shows that not only I gave a high grade to on the first or second episode, but I, ran through it all because I loved it so much. And the other ones I'm certainly going to get to. One of them is pretty new, so I just haven't been able to catch up with it yet. But number 10 is Dope Sick on Hulu. Man, this... And okay, I'm going to do them both at the same time because number 10 was Dope Sick. Number 9 is Made on Netflix. They came out like the same week. I reviewed them on the same show. And I watched one a week until I was done. And I struggled which one to put at 9, which one to put at 10. If I could have a tie, this would be it. These are both magnificent shows. They're so well acted. Of course, you've got Michael Keaton and Dope Sick, among many other great people. Michael Stuhlbarg and what's her name from Clerks 2 and Rent. Man, I'm having a brain fart. But anyway, Rosario Dawson. I was thinking Rosie something. Rosario Dawson. And then Maid, you have actually somebody I can't stand, Andie MacDowell, and her real life daughter. But she's great in this, and the daughter is a revelation. I think she's going to be real big going forward. And then you also have that cutie from Love, Simon, in his first like kind of villain role. These are both very hard to watch shows. Dopesick about the pill industry and specifically like OxyContin. And Maid is about, a poor struggling woman in this very abusive relationship, but they have a daughter, so she's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because she has nowhere to go, and she wants to, make sure her daughter is safe, but she keeps getting sucked back into this relationship. Both are real heavy hitters. You don't want to watch them if you're in a down mood, because it will not make it better. But the acting here, just absolute revelations. Michael Keaton's already been getting some awards love. He just got nominated for a SAG award. He was, I believe, nominated for a Golden Globe, maybe too. And Maid, well, that made the AFI top 10 shows of the year list. Actually, most of my top 10 or top 15, like Schmigadoon was on there, and Reservation Dogs was on there. So, but this one made AFI's top 10 as well, so obviously a lot of love there. These are two just fantastic shows. I couldn't really decide. I put Maid up at number 9 just because I thought it was maybe a little more original, but they're both excellent. Number 8, we go to comedy. Oh, we've got some comedies on here, thank God. HBO Max, The Sex Lives of College Girls. This one is pretty new, so I did only watch the 2 or 3 that I watched when I reviewed it a few weeks ago. But Mindy Kaling, created this, one of the producers. I will basically follow Mindy into anything. I always go in loving Mindy, but this was, I think, a step above even what I thought it was going to be. I think it's kind of what Grownish wanted to be. Now, Grownish is restrained a little bit because it's on Freeform, although they get away with a lot these days on basic cable. So Grownish did, a few of these things, a lot about sex, but it didn't quite capture, I didn't think, the spirit of being a freshman quite like this does. And it's very sharp writing, as you would expect. And again, really good acting from newcomers. I don't think I recognized anybody from this show, but really good stuff and funny. All right, we stick with HBO Max for number 7. Talk about funny, talk about awards love, Hacks. This show is so great. This is with Jean Smart, who won a bunch of awards already for this. This is sort of the year of Jean Smart because she'll be in one of the other shows I have coming up on the list, which you might be able to guess by now. But she's fantastic in this, and I've always loved her. Dating. I didn't watch Designing Women a ton back in the day, but she was in the Brady Bunch movie. She was the neighbor, and every time she pops up, she's just very funny. And this is a great character study. I'm going to say it again. The great character work here from Jean Smart, and really the whole cast, sharp writing. So that's on HBO Max. Number 6, certainly one of the most popular shows of the year, Squid Game on Netflix. I did watch this all the way through, and man, powerhouse, right? So good. It didn't make AFI's list because they only do American shows, but it gave it like a special award. It gave this for TV, Belfast for movies, because they were outside of the Hollywood system. But this is a great show. I'm excited if it does come back for a second and third season. I know they've been in talks with Netflix about that. Why wouldn't they do a second season at the very least? Because it broke all of these Netflix records, and deservedly so. It's one of these shows that sort of does capture a moment for everybody. I think everybody is going to remember, one of the best shows of 2021 for sure, the Squid Game. Everybody did like parodies about it and tried to play their own, versions of it or whatever with their friends. Fantastic show. And whether you watch the sub or the dub, I went the dub route, which there were a couple occasions where some of the characters were like, all right, this is not great dub work here. But the dialogue was so fast. I found that to be better than doing the subs, but, either way, Squid Game, so good. All right, number 5. This is another one I haven't finished yet. I think the season did wrap up, but it was another sort of late year entry. Yellow Jackets on Showtime. This is something I thought I would kind of like. And based on the premise, my buddy Tim and I were talking about this, and we're big Lost fans, so it's sort of sounded like this kind of Lost vibe, but it definitely turns that template on its ear, and for the better. The first, all the people we knew that were in the show, Christina Ricci, and what's her face, Juliette Lewis, they didn't even hardly appear in the first episode, because the first episode is all about the younger versions of those characters, which I had no idea that was going to be part of it. I loved the way they sort of dovetailed that into, okay, now let's talk about 20 years, 25 years after the plane crash, and catch up with these people while still doing flashbacks. Brilliantly written. I think if I finished it, this could be higher up even on the list than number 5. But as it is right now for those first few episodes, I'll leave it at number 5. But really, really good stuff. Number 4 on Peacock. I've been talking about this all year, and it's one that nobody is really talking about. It did get a couple of small awards from different places, but We Are Lady Parts. This is one that I binged in, I think, maybe an afternoon. It's only 6 half-hour episodes, so it's easy to do. I think this is really, really great stuff. Again, people I don't know. These are all new actresses, but it is, a foreign, Muslim rock band made up of women, and they all sort of deal with their religion in different ways, and we get to see sort of how the parents are reacting differently to being in the band, and their interactions with each other are great. It's a great coming of age show, and we're getting a season 2. So look, check it out. I have been preaching it since I gave it an A back in whatever that was, April or May or something, but you got to watch We Are Lady Parts. All right, the top 3, I think, are not going to be surprises. They're shows everybody has been talking about. Number 3 is WandaVision on Disney+. This, and by the way, I want to say this top 3, much like Maid and Dope Sick, that could be interchanged. Any of these shows in my top 3 could have been number 1, but number 3 for WandaVision. This is certainly one of the most original shows out there. The premise is super original. My only reason I think for putting it at number 3 instead of in the top 2 is those first 2 episodes are so confusing that I think you have to really want to stick with this show to get rewarded. Now, every Marvel fan has pretty much seen this, so if you're a Marvel fan, great. But I would recommend this even to classic television fans, even if you don't know much about Marvel. I don't know if you'll really get the Marvel references, but I think a lot of the Marvel fans don't get any of the classic sitcom references, so it's sort of a double-edged sword there. So I think this one is not quite as universal as my number 1 or number 2 pick, so that's why it isn't number 3, but it is some of the most brilliant writing I've ever seen in the Marvel Universe, for sure. The most original thing Marvel's ever done. And it made a fan out of me of Wanda, who is a character that I typically don't really care for. So that's number 3. Number 2, Mayor of Easttown, Kate Winslet. I keep mentioning character work, character studies. This is the tops of the year in that department, I think. And being from Delaware County, the accent is so spot on. Everything about this show is spot on. And I think it works for not just people from Philly, but all over the globe can appreciate this show. It's fantastic. It deserves all of the awards that it's been getting. Evan Peters just got nominated for supporting actor, or maybe lead actor, for the SAG Awards. Kate Winslet got nominated for the SAG Awards. They've won Emmys. They've won Golden Globes. This show is excellent. It's a mini-series right now, but I know if Kate Winslet wants to do a season 2, they're going to do one. HBO would be so stupid not to. So I think we'll see probably a season 2 if Kate Winslet wants to. I know she sort of had mentioned it a little bit in the past, but all right. Now my number 1, it's one that has been talked about. I decided to go with a comedy this year. Ted Lasso was my number 2 last year. Number 1 was The Queen's Gambit. And it's kind of funny because the way a lot of these awards go, Mayor of Easttown, WandaVision, and Queen's Gambit were up for the same awards, like at the Emmys, for example, because it goes from September to September. I go year to year, like the Golden Globes and SAG Awards and other award shows. So For me, they didn't have to compete with each other. If they did have to, I think Queen's Gambit still might be number one. But I do want to say, before I get to my number one, speaking of Ted Lasso, so in addition to all of these 278 new shows I've watched throughout the year, I do keep up on other shows as well. Past seasons now, there's some shows I'm a couple seasons behind of. Like This Is Us, I love, but I think I'm like 2 seasons back. The Rookie, same thing. But there are certain shows that I keep up with every single week, or at least try to keep up with once a year. And Ted Lasso, I'm almost done season 2 with that. And for my money, Ted Lasso is the number one show on television. And it's on Apple Plus, so on streaming, whatever. But we still say on television. But Ted Lasso for me is number one overall over any of these in season 2. So number 2 in its freshman season last year. This year, I think it would be my number one show that's out there. But number one for the year for new shows is Hulu's Only Murders in the Building. This, look, I've always loved Martin Short and Steve Martin, so no surprise that I was a fan of this show. But it's so funny. They're so funny together always. And they brought Selena Gomez in, which sort of seems out of left field, but she actually fits right in with their brand of humor, and she fits right in sort of with the dynamic. And great, guest stars and recurring stars throughout this show, from Jane Lynch to Nathan Lane. Everybody really giving their all here. And it is original because not only is it a comedy show, but it's a murder mystery show. It's a satire on sort of those true crime podcasts. But at the same time, it is it is what it's satirizing. It not that it's a true crime, but it does become this brilliant sort of whodunit, while they're making the podcast about whodunit. And we switch gears several times throughout the season, with what we're thinking, and okay, maybe it's this person, maybe it's this person, maybe that's a red herring. And all the while, the comedy is just going at you full guns. So for me, this is the top show of the year. It is coming back for season 2, which has already started filming, so we look forward to that next year. But well, I guess this year, because I'm recording this in 2022. But that is it. So those are all my top shows. I hope you found something there that you can sink your teeth into, or maybe, something that you watched and agree with. I know there's a lot of Mayor of Easttown, WandaVision, Only Murders in the Building fans out there, Squid Game fans for sure. So let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite show of the year? Let's talk about that a little bit. So I have already watched all the shows for my first 2022 TV video, because they've released a bunch of shows already. We're almost 2 weeks into the year here. So but I got a little behind. I went on vacation to Florida for New Year's, so had to sort of step back a little bit from this. But we're gonna go guns a-blazing, and I don't know if we're gonna hit 278 again this year. I don't know, but I think last year I hit 261 or something like that. So at least 250 you can expect. But I will be here with you for every major new show that airs. Even some of the reality ones. I think I'm going to tackle Joe Millionaire soon, the return of that stupid show. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and sticking with me all year long with the TV news and reviews, and we'll see you next time. Bye.